Mario, I have predicted and foretold your appearance within this galactic vicinity. Prepare to be run out of the state of mind you know is homeostasis. You shall feel pain and I shall eat your cheese. All your cheese are belong to us. You underestimate the power of cheese.
Time to get out of this cheesy dimension.
I can tear you in two. Mario, I am casting my thoughts into your mind through a complicated telepathically enhanced mind control. You must find the secret cheese and get it to me. I will then give you your cheese back. I am Super Toad, shouldn't have told you that. All your cheese are belong to us. You must find the secret cheese. Get it to me, I will then give you your cheese back. So, Mario, you brought me the secret cheese. Good work. I'm still not giving you your cheese back, though. Cat.
Ouch! Java. Need more Java. Triple espresso. I feel pain. I feel pain. I feel pain. I feel pain.